Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Cynthia Toolin-Wilson, and today I'm here with Cathy Gilmore. Cathy Gilmore has written 5 storybooks, and the series is entitled The Virtue Heroes. She's also writing now a larger book on all 40 characters that will be in the Virtue Heroes. So how are you tonight, Cathy?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad you're here. I enjoy talking to people that do the children's books. It's a talent I don't have any talent there, but it's always nice to look at them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we all have a little bit of a little kid in us, even if we're not going to create them. You know, there's a little kid in us that likes to connect with the youthful stuff.
Yeah, I agree. On occasion, I'll be walking through the living room and there'll be a cartoon on Saturday morning, and I'll have to just stop and watch. Yeah.
That's cute.
Like reliving your youth, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what is it that led you to write children's books, and these in particular?
Well, actually, it's cute because I think there's a lot of factors, but one of the factors is that as my mom got older, and even I can remember this for a long time, she would keep scrapbooks of cute or funny pictures of animals from like the National Enquirer, newspaper from the grocery store. She would bring these home and she'd find just the cutest things. She was always, loved animals, loved all the little God's creatures. And I don't know, something about that must have stuck, because then when I was in college, I really, what came to me clearly was I want to be a children's author. I mean, I knew I was a bit of a writer. I got a communications degree. And so I knew I had some writing skill, interest, all that. But I was like, I want to be a children's author. And then, then I was afraid of the process. And I didn't do anything about it for 25 years. So I guess I'm a bit of a late bloomer. And so now at this more mature season in my life, now I am writing children's books and producing the series, and I know my mom's smiling wherever she is with me and all these little animal and insect characters.
Mm-hmm. Oh, insects, yuck.
Yeah, I got both.
Oh yeah. So I try to avoid insects at all costs.
Well, the Virtue Hero insects are very cute, and they are not creepy, because I agree with you. I'll run the other way from the typical real insects.
Yeah. Especially spiders. Oh God, they terrify.
Yeah, I don't have a spider in the team, so we're good that way.
That's good. The spider will be the enemy.
Exactly. Right. But it's been a delight to go through this process. And the first storybook now, we're taping in the Easter season. And the first storybook that I ever published was a partner project with my sister. And it's really where I found my author's voice, because it was a story about a little bunny who gets trapped in the tomb and witnesses the resurrection. We wanted to give families a faith-filled way of thinking about the Easter Bunny. And so it was through that story, developing it with my sister, that I really realized that God was calling me to write these little stories about biblical moments from the perspective of a little animal or insect, little creature that could be the witness to the big moment.
Mm-hmm. That's brilliant.
It's fun. It's really cute. It's been fun to create them and fun to share them with families and kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine so. I don't have imagination to come up with something like that. That's incredible. The idea of a bunny trapped in the tomb and watches the resurrection. Wow.
Well, and what's so cute about that, it's called Easter Bunny's Amazing Day. And basically what happens is this is a very frightened little bunny, and the bunny runs into the tomb, and because it's scared of the earthquake and the storm and everything. And then when Jesus rises, then Jesus takes a moment to take the little bunny in his arms and says, "Don't be afraid, little bunny, I am with you." And that's when all the fear melts away from the little bunny's heart. And what's so cute in that book is that the kids enjoy it. They love it. Very sweet. They love now being able to picture the bunny as this sweet little, Easter bunny is this sweet little bunny loving Jesus. But the funny thing is, the grown-ups, the moms and the grandmas, they all start crying. They tear up when Jesus hugs the bunny and says, don't be afraid, because, all of us have some fears and things in our lives, and it's a comfort.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's nice. I really like that. That's a great idea. So,
well, it's been fun. It's been fun that kind of was the springboard that then got me going. And then the Virtue Heroes, actually, they're structured to follow, even though I never mention the word rosary, but they follow the stories of the mysteries of the rosary. So these first 5 books that we'll be talking about today, the first one tells the story of the Annunciation, but we're highlighting the virtue of Mary's humility. Then the second story, we tell the story of Elizabeth and the visitation, but we highlight the virtue of inspiration, which is more of a practical virtue. So I've got all the different range of virtues included. And then, like on the third one, we tell the story of the Nativity, but it's from the perspective of the caravan of the wise men coming to visit Jesus, and we talk about the virtue of wisdom. And then when we do the presentation in the temple, Simeon is who's highlighted, and this little calf tells the story at the temple, and it's gratitude, because the little calf is at the temple, and the little calf thinks that he's not going to make it out alive, and then it ends up that he does, because Jesus came and things are too busy at the temple, and so then the little calf makes it out alive. So he says Jesus is his Messiah too. And then the fifth one tells the story of the finding in the temple, where there's a little caterpillar named Eli that actually rides along in Mary's basket while they are searching for Jesus, and then is a witness to when they find him in the temple. So, and that one actually, that story, we tell it from the perspective of the kindness of Saint Joseph, because he's the example of a dad who's in an absolutely disastrous situation. He didn't just lose his son, he lost the Son of God. And so, but Joseph ends up showing all these moments of being kind in the midst of a crisis. And so we really honor him as a father. We honor him in so many ways, because that one actually was released during the year of St. Joseph. And it was my way of wanting to really, tip my hat to Jesus's earthly dad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's the structure. Each one has a focus virtue, and each one has a story that is told based on the mysteries of the Rosary. And so that'll continue as the other stories come out. But this will be a while. This will take me a little while. It's a labor of love, but they don't happen in a day.
Okay. So, so you have 5 that you're doing, or at least have planned out and started writing. and you're going to go for 40?
Correct. Because basically, this is like a little chart of all the different little characters, and they all have stories to tell. So ultimately, the first 20 characters align with the mysteries of the Rosary. The other 20 characters actually tell, the next series is what I affectionately will call the fish tales, and it's all these different, like a snail and different fish talking more directly about Jesus. And then the final 3 sets of stories will actually tell more of Old Testament stories. And so we've got, and the whole point of it all is to highlight role models for children. Because all the study that I've done, I've been preparing and studying and trying to figure out, how do we captivate children with the desire to want to be virtuous? Mm-hmm. I'm not all about trying to teach kids what virtue is. There's tons of people out there doing it better than I ever would. They have PhDs and XYZs and everything else after their name. And I'm like, no, I'm much more of a marketer. I want to give children the desire, the motivation to want virtue in their own little lives. And so the way we do it is through, so for example, with Mouse and a Miracle, the little mouse tells a story. His name's Moshe, and he's telling the story of Mary at the Annunciation. Well, you have 2 role models here. The one is the little mouse that the child can very much relate to. And so they're going to want to be like Moshe. Well, who's Moshe's favorite person? Moshe points you to Mary. And then we're through Moshe, we're admiring Mary and her humility and her yes to God and all the good things about Mary, in a way that a little child can understand. Mm-hmm. And part of this also on this particular set of books is when a child experiences the mysteries of the Rosary, especially like the joyful mysteries, there's not really a thought about the joy of it when you're trying to help a child pray the Rosary. You know, you're just having them try to say the prayers and think about Mary at the Annunciation. And yes, she said yes. But I really wanted to give children an opportunity to think. This is the last page of the book. And in it, Mary's got angels dancing around her, and she's twirling and dancing because she's experiencing joy. And little Moshe is holding on to her mantle, and he's flying around the room with her twirling and her dance. But the whole idea is we want the children to feel a little taste of that joy of that story, of each of these stories. Because, I mean, think about it. If you even like do the story of the finding in the temple, what people often remember the most from that story is that Mary says, "Son, why did you do this to us? We were so worried. And, why did you put us through this?" And it kind of sounds like Mary's a little mad at him. And I get it. If I was the mom and my son was gone for 3 days and I find him and he says, "Why didn't you think to look for me here?" I'd be ready to smack him. But for this storybook, I really wanted the children to experience the joy. And so we have when Mary finds Jesus, after she says, "Oh my gosh, why did you do this?" Then you have that embrace of joy, like she's so glad that they found him. And we have almost like, we end the story almost with a dad joke, basically, of Joseph saying to Jesus, "Oh, I guess we should have thought to look for you in the temple. Maybe we should have looked there first." But the whole idea is to give children this experience of joy for these joyful mysteries, for these stories, so that then when a child goes to pray the rosary, or even if they're just thinking of the Bible story, they're thinking of it in a truly joyful way. And hopefully, I mean, I know for me, these storybooks help me stay focused when I'm trying to pray. And I've heard from other families that it does the same for the children, that they can imagine the story of the mystery better, and sometimes if I'm distracted, I'll be like, okay, Moshe, bring me back, and get me less distracted. But anyway, so any more, what else can I share with you about this crazy menagerie?
That sounds pretty interesting to me.
It's been quite the adventure, and what is coming next? Because people always ask me, what's coming next? And for right now, I'm pushing pause on the development of the series, because it's I'm not working with a big publishing company. This is a labor of love. I'm doing this independently, at least for now. Maybe God will put me with some organization or somebody at some point, but for now, this is emerging gradually. But I really felt the need, because the favorite page in the book that kids love is this page. They love looking at all the different little characters. Who are they? What's their virtue? What are they like? And so that's one of the things I wanted to let your listeners and viewers know, that if they go to virtueheroes.com, I have information on all the characters there. So they don't have to wait for all the books to come out, that they can get to know these characters and start imagining the characters and get inspired by the characters, even before I get a chance to tell all their stories in book form. But one of the things that's coming out next is this Everyday Virtues from A to Z book. And this will be coming out sometime, I'm hopeful, of this summer 2024. And the format of it has changed a little bit, but this is a sample. I thought this would be fun to share. But so that each page will have the word, the letter. It's like an ABC book, but for bigger kids. It's not the ABC book that you'd read when they're 3. This is the book, once you're a little bit older. But they've got the virtue word and a little description about it, the character, where the character's from. So the actual, where's this animal live? This is Melee, who is the virtue hero of acceptance. And Melee lives basically off of Molokai Island, in the Hawaiian Islands. And Melee admires very much Mary Ann Cope, who was the nun who came to the island to help Father Damien with the lepers and all that. And so this story is about accepting people and accepting situations and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's always a little Bible virtue hero, and that goes with each one of the stories. And so this one is Ruth. And so Millie tells you a little tiny bit about Ruth and how she accepted the people and the changes and the different things in her life. And so it's basically, we're giving children at a young age, fairly young age, anchor points of saying this virtue of acceptance, or like the other one that the kids really enjoy is the virtue of charity. It's a chipmunk named Joktan, and Joktan the chipmunk. When Joktan tells his story, he's running around the hillside in the crowd at the sermon when Jesus did told us the Beatitudes. And Joktan is filling his cheeks because he wants more. And then he finally realizes, watching everybody there and watching Jesus, that it's it's far better, and he realizes he's richer when he gives more away. And so he gets this whole notion of the virtue of charity. And and so this is what's coming, and it'll be just so adorable. And I think the kids and the families will have all kinds of fun with it. I know I've got a friend who's a preschool teacher, and she says, Cathy, we already do a letter every day. So now we'll just do a letter and a virtue every day, and we'll do the character, and we can go find out where the animal lives. She's like, this is like a curriculum on each page. I'm like, well, if I'm helping you, I'm happy, because I really feel called to promote what I call virtue literacy. So it's the knowledge and the practice of virtue through what we experience through reading, media, and all those different access points. And we want our children not just to be literate. We don't want them just to read and read anything. We want them to be virtue literate. We want them to be knowing how to seek out what to read, what to experience that is actually going to build virtue in their hearts and in their souls.
That's a worthy cause.
It's a passion. and that's and on the larger level, that's the other kind of website. One thing that I've done is I've taken all of these characters and I've incorporated them into a media recommendation website. Right now it's called virtuesearch.com. Eventually this will transition to, I'm switching it up a little bit. If they look for Virtue Search, it'll still be a link that gets them there, but it's going to be vfave.com, which is virtue favorites. Some people said that if you can imagine the society we're in now, Cynthia.
That's what I've been thinking about while you've been talking.
Yes. And imagine the society we're living in now is just so not virtuous. And some people guided me and said, Cathy, unfortunately, if you have the word virtue in the website name for something that's a information aggregator, like a search engine, she said they'll all think it's sappy, and that they will automatically assume that since something's virtuous, it is boring. So that's why I'm going to have to change what I call it. So it's vfave.com. Will be the second generation, I guess, of this site. But basically what I've done is create an access point for all kinds of books, movies, and music. And this is still at an early stage. If people go now and visit it, because right now it's virtuesearch.com. And if they go visit it, they will find there's probably about 150 different title recommendations right now. That will build over time. But everything is, instead of the rating systems that we currently have in place for movies and books and everything, we always have the G, PG, PG-13, all that kind of thing. It's a rating system based on how much bad content is in something. And unfortunately, over time, it has actually made it where children can't wait to be old enough to watch worse content. It has now become a rite of passage. And I'm like, we got to turn this around. And so now with this platform, I am creating a whole new rating system that is based on virtues. And so if something has a bunch of bad content in it, it's not going to even be recommended. We're not even going to include it, but we're going to include the things that are high quality and wonderfully enjoyable, not sappy and poor quality. but things that you can enjoy, but also be edified at the same time. And that's religious content, secular content, doesn't matter. It's the whole range. And that is actually for grown-ups, teens, and children. And the way that the Virtue Heroes play a role in that site is if you look at any of the pages for the little kids, the Virtue Heroes are the ones who recommend the title to the children. There'll always be 3 virtue heroes, 3 virtues that feature in a storybook or a movie or whatever, that the children then, when they go with mom to ultimately to look on that site and find something to watch or read or listen to, they'll be looking to see, well, what is Moshe like, and what is, the different characters like. So all of this, little by little by little, it's been a big project, but is coming together, and I think it's going to be a huge help to families, because I don't know what your journey has been, but have you always found it difficult to keep directing young people to good content? It becomes sort of a needle in a haystack search at times.
Yeah, and you really have to watch everything, so.
Right.
Okay.
And I want to be able to make it so much easier for families.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, you're very ambitious.
Yeah.
I'm down here, and you're like, whoo.
Well, that's why I say I'm a late bloomer. I mean, my husband laughs. He's like, Cathy, you're at the season of life where people are slowing down. I'm like, well, for some reason, God's got me ramping it up right now. Ultimately, this will be a baton that I'll pass on to others, but at least I'm getting things set in motion.
Yeah, yeah.
And
that's
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like the ideas you have. The idea of coupling small animals with virtue, with a virtue. I mean, that kids are going to love that without even realizing what they're learning. They'll be learning it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the whole thing of virtue literacy. We're giving them those words to start building with.
Yeah, that's great. And then this website idea sounds wonderful. But boy, I'll bet that's going to be a lot of work.
Well, I mean, and that's where it's never going to be just me. As I said, I'm getting things rocking and rolling. Because I knew as it started to come together, I had to basically put the basic puzzle pieces together. And then once I have the system in place, then many more people than me can come in. I tease that ultimately, as investors get involved and all that kind of stuff, and there's some money in the mix beyond my humble efforts. I'm going to be able to hire people, and it's going to be the best part-time job for a mom to, keep putting titles into the system. I joke that it's going to be mamas in pajamas and men in pajamas working on putting more title recommendations into the system. So it'll be cool.
That's great. Yeah, I think it will be. It'll be beyond cool.
and people can go now and actually, if you go to the site now, it is all actually live. So there's already great titles to discover that you may not know about. I know there's a number of Catholic authors, and I keep trying to add more of these newer Catholic authors that for whatever reason, we are in what I call a ghetto, a cultural ghetto, that there's, it used to be good things to read, watch, and listen were in this like circle. and there was Catholic stuff and Christian stuff and all that kind of stuff. And the bad things, the sort of morally misguided things, they were pushed aside. They were pushed out to the fringe. They were not in the core of our cultural experience. And little by little, all of that has come in and become normalized. I'm sure you've seen it, that the raunchy movies and books and all those things that used to be sort of shunned, now are part of the normal fray. You go and you look at what's available on streaming services, and there's no differentiation between things that are lovely and wholesome and things that are wretched. They're just side by side choices, more choices. Well, what has happened is as the toxic content came and became normal, then the Christian folks and even the Catholic folks had to differentiate themselves from the mixed up mess. And so then Christian fiction and Christian movies and Christian stuff started to be differentiated, and people were doing a heroic job trying to create good things and get it known that these are good things. And some of the stuff were kind of lame. You go back 5-10 years and it's like, oh, that was a great effort, but not great, but people were trying. Well, what happened in the process then is that the Catholic content wasn't even really well accepted within the Christian genre. And so Catholic content was then even more segregated. It was even more marginalized. And so that's why I consider it's in this cultural ghetto. And so if we don't now sort of sing the praises of my books and many, many other stories and movies and all these kind of things that are not necessarily, they're not trying to teach a message, but they are communicating a story from a Catholic worldview. Mm-hmm. That's what people need to discover. That's where they're going to really find virtuous stories, but it doesn't necessarily have to teach a Catholic lesson. Does that make sense? Or do you understand where I'm getting at?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's a great idea.
Yep. No. And that's what my hope is for Virtue Search, or ultimately VFAV, is we're going to create a new pie where the secular good, wholesome things, the Christian good, wholesome things, and the Catholic good, wholesome things will all be discovered and recommended on a level playing field, and all the icky stuff that used to be shunned, that used to be pushed to the margin, will simply be left out of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And I pray then that makes it so much better, for families. I know some moms that were homeschoolers. Years ago, I used to homeschool, and I knew some moms that were homeschoolers that they actually considered it almost like a part-time job to research books and movies and media type things that they could have confidence for their children to experience, and in a way that was, good for their age and all that kind of stuff. It's just been awful to try and navigate. So,
well, that's the whole culture. So, I mean, it's rampant.
Right. And we try so hard to teach what's good. We're trying to send our kids to good Catholic schools or Christian schools or, good schools or homeschooling. We try so hard to teach good values and good, religious faith and all those things to our children. And then unfortunately, then they get to be about middle school and on into high school, and the culture comes at them, and it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's all these tiny little moments. It's 1,000 YouTube videos, 1,000 songs on Spotify. It's all these different things that pull down and erode all the good things you've tried to teach them. And it's our kids are having to run a gauntlet, and many of them, their souls aren't making it through. It's such an onslaught that these kids are, they get to young adulthood and they're like, that God thing, that virtue thing, I don't need it. I'm doing fine. And it's just like, all the moms and the grandmas are boo-hooing over here saying, no, don't let go. Don't let go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. So I'm trying to, where'd you go? There you are.
I'm here.
Second.
I'm still here. Me and my little characters. Mm-hmm. My dream is that I'll have toys at some point. But
that's a great idea.
In God's good timing.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't you think? I mean, we need to have a little Eli. We need to have a Devery the honeybee. Mm-hmm. We need these little fun little things for the kids to carry around the house, and talk to and play with. All that.
Yeah.
God willing, it'll all happen.
That's great. That's really. Mm-hmm. So, what is the next step?
The next step is I'll be working this summer with my graphic designer and a artist on completing all the different pages for the everyday virtues from A to Z. That's really the most I guess the next step, lowest hanging fruit coming up. And then there's another project that is in the works, and it's going to be launching fairly soon that your viewers might want to know about. And this is not for the younger kids. This is for the kids that are about second grade, third and fourth grade. But I have developed something with the World Apostolate of Fatima called the Fatima Friends Adventure Guide. Mm-hmm. And I basically I'm all into heroes. So I have turned Mary, the Angel of Peace, Jacinta, Francisco, and Lucia into a team of heroes. And they're called the Fatima Five. And in the book, we invite children through basically the characters of Mary and her team to come alongside in Mary's mission to pray and do the 5 first Saturdays and make sacrifices to save souls. But we've done it in such imaginative and fun way that I think the kids are going to have a grand time. Because it's all kinds of activities and everything interwoven into the process of learning better how to pray and connect with Mary. So Fatima Friends Adventure Guide is getting ready to come and hit the scene as well.
Good.
So I got too many projects.
Well, I don't know. True. I think they'll all get done over time. It's not going to be quickly, but I do think it'll all come out. Yeah. So that's wonderful. Mm-hmm.
But it's been a joy, and when I started working on that one, I was like, because I basically called up the World Apostolate of Fatima and I said, guys, when was the last time you updated any of your children's content that you were, using with your, Fatima Blue Army team, of products or anything for kids? And so they looked and they said, oh, well, I think the last time we developed something was in 1950. Oh. I said, well, I bet that was really cute, but should we do something for the more modern children? And so that opened the door, started the process, and it was just a riot, because when I realized, I'm like, oh my goodness, no one hardly ever takes children to the 5 First Saturdays. And I'm like, Lord, you're calling me to make the 5 First Saturdays fun and desirable for kids in like 3rd grade. But I think we did it. I think we did it. I'll have to send you a link, and when it all comes together, it'll be on my sites, that people will be able to find it, because there is a thread of virtue through those stories as well. I'm never not talking about virtue in some way.
Well, that's good.
But, yeah.
Well, I wish you all the luck in the world. I don't think you'll need luck, though. I think you have God on your side. You know?
This is definitely you know, they tease about saying it's a mission from God. I think it is.
Okay. Well, it's been a very interesting interview. I've not interviewed many people who write at the children's level, but I think that this is very impressive, just listening to the plans you have. I mean, if I tried to do that, I'd probably die of exhaustion. You know, it's like,
well, you know what though, Cynthia, it's like this. Teeny baby steps, more baby steps every day. And it's like, whoa, look at where we came, you know?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So just keep on keeping on.
Yep. Okay. Well, God bless you. And I certainly hope you have a great deal of success, because I think it'll be very good for young Catholic children.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Mm-hmm. So now are we done? And I just push the end and we're all complete? Or do we want to say a prayer?
Yes, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'd asked you to also end the interview with a prayer.
Okay. All right. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, we thank you for the faithfulness of this broadcast to bring these interviews of authors to a wider audience. And thank you for our time together. Please bless everybody working on this team and everybody who is going to experience this interview. And please just lead them in the ways of virtue. And Blessed Mother Mary, please put your mantle around all of us in all that we do, to protect us and guide us, so that we can be close to your Son. Amen.
Amen. And thank you so much for the interview.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Okay.
You take care. All right. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.